All right, let me do a little bit of quick housekeeping before we get started with Gretchen. Tomorrow we have a top talk at 3 o'clock. On Friday, we have a massive amount of people getting together in Fort Lauderdale for an in-person meetup. So I'm very, very excited to see everybody in Fort Lauderdale. Um, Monday, we added a new uh, very quick meeting. It's 15 minutes. It's the top meditation with Amanda Sellers. So we do that every other Monday. So we've got that. And then we have office hours with Anna Morgan. And then on Wednesday, the 20th, we have office hours with Carrie Lynn Shaw, who is one of the best salary negotiators in the country. So I also wanted to say congratulations to Kathy on launching another book. So congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
I don't see Robin on the call, probably with good reason. So yesterday was Robin Ingelson's birthday, but today her book comes out. So make sure you give her some love. For anyone who's not been on one of these calls before, the format is about a 30-minute fireside chat with Gretchen and then 30-minute live Q&A. So if you have a question, just put in the chat, I have a question for Gretchen, and then we'll tee you up and you can ask your question directly to Gretchen. But let me introduce this phenomenal person, and it's so apropos that we have her on today, the day after Veterans Day. So she is a retired U.S. Army Command Sergeant Major, which is the highest military rank that an enlisted person can achieve. I could probably stop there, and that would be pretty impressive. But she's also an ESPY winner. She won the ESPY Award for the Pat Tillman Award for Service. She's in the U.S. Women Army Hall of Fame. She's in the U.S. Veterans Hall of Fame. She earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. In 2004, she commanded 30,000 people in Afghanistan. She's the author of Lead from the Front, and she's the founder of Team Unbroken. So to say that Gretchen Evans is a legend is an understatement. So before I get into my first questions with Gretchen, Kathy, can you get us started? Gretchen, welcome to the Outlier Project.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are absolutely honored. Gretchen has been on a speaking tear recently, so her voice is a little raspy today. But you can imagine with Veterans Day, she is flying all over the country and speaking and inspiring people. So Gretchen, I want to start. You grew up in Texas. And in 1979, when you were, I believe, 19 years old, you decided to enlist in the Army. What was your motivation at the time, and what were your expectations for your military career as a 19-year-old joining the Army in 79?
To be totally honest, the projected me to walk into the recruiter's office was a need to support myself and feed myself. So my parents died when I was 15, both of them within 6 months of each other. So fortunately, my oldest brother had just turned 21 and he came home until myself and my younger brother became of age, which was 18. So 18, I took off and went to college for a year. I found it really difficult to work full time, go to school, and do well. So I thought, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. I was brought up in a very patriotic family. My dad was a World War II veteran. And so I thought, you know what? I'll go serve my country. I'll get a trade. I'll save some money and I'll take advantage of the educational benefits that the military offers. And so that's what, prompted me to do that. My expectations really were to find a place where I could excel. And I said I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. And so certainly the military provides that. And I thought I was going to stay in just for 4 years, but actually I fell in love with the Army. I don't know if the Army found me or I found the Army, but I had never felt more at home and more like I was serving my destiny needed to look like than I did with the military.
What's amazing about that is, I mean, I think we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go in terms of gender equality in the military. But in 1979, it was a different world. Why do you think you felt so welcomed and comfortable?
That's a great question. If you think about 1979, it was right after really the end of the Vietnam War. So all my leaders, my NCO, non-commissioned officers, and my officers were Vietnam veterans. And so they were mean as snakes. Okay. So I went to basic training. Okay. You know, they, it was tough love. It was a perfect example of tough love. They didn't care. What they really cared about is that you had the courage to sign on the dotted line saying that you're willing to give your life for your country. And honestly, they didn't really care about your gender. Now, there might have been some that did care, but what I saw were hardened, battled Vietnam veterans who knew that their job was one thing, and that was prepare us for a time that when we went to war, not if, but when. And they kept saying that to us over and over and over again. And at 19, you're thinking, no, we're never going to go to war again. We just had an awful war. We're not going to do that. But, those guys taught me how to do things the correct way the first time, where you got whacked in the head. This is back in the day when they could hit you and stuff. Okay. And I think that part of my success in the military was that grounding, okay, of being really all you can be, if you want to use that term, at the very beginning of my career, that doing less than best was never acceptable.
You spent 27 years serving our country. And you wrote a great book called Lead from the Front, which we'll talk about in a minute. But in 2004, you found yourself leading 30,000 people in Afghanistan. What was that like? Was that a surreal moment?
It was very surreal. And what happened was when you make command sergeant major and you get past the 1-star level, your assignments are nominative, which means when a general takes a unit, he or she gets to pick their sergeant major, because that's a very unique relationship between a commander and the sergeant major. So a sergeant major only answers to one person, and that is the commander. You're not part of the staff. And also the thing about sergeant majors is that your rank is given by the president of the United States, not by officers who can take it away. And so that makes you the person who can walk into a 4-star general's office and say, sir or ma'am, maybe you're a little wacko right now, and can I help you? Okay, without fear of any retribution. And your role as a command sergeant major is to be the advocate for the troop on the ground. You're the one that makes sure that they're getting everything they need to be successful at their mission. So when General Eikenberry called me, he was taking over all the ground forces, really all the forces in Afghanistan, and asked me if I wanted to come and be his sergeant major. It wasn't really a question, but anyway, he did call and ask. And I said, yes. Yes, it was very surreal. And I was in charge of all the garrisons that were there and their security and the supplies and all those kinds of things. And there was another female sergeant major there, actually, which was very unique, Sergeant Major Cynthia Pritchett, who was the CFC Alpha Command Sergeant Major. And there was maybe at the time 100, I would say, females on all of Afghanistan, and then you had 2 female sergeant majors, and it was a very unique period in time. And yes, it was a very surreal moment for me.
So we flash forward 2 years. In 2006 in Afghanistan, you were the victim of a horrific explosion. Walk us through what happened to you on that day.
So on that particular day, it was towards the end of the rotation of the majority of my unit. So we call it, as I'm starting to send soldiers home, the new unit is coming in, because I'm rotating a lot of soldiers. So you don't all get up on the same day and leave. Okay, we call it right seating. And this is how we bring in the new unit comes in, and they literally sit in the right seat of the Humvee or the aircraft or whatever. And we say, let me show you the lay of the land. Okay, let me show you what's going on here and what's changed maybe since the last time you were here. What are the friendly villages? Who are the good warlords? Those type of things. It's also the most dangerous time in a deployment, because soldiers start thinking about going home. I start seeing short timer calendars pop up with lines drawn through the dates. And if you look at statistics, you'll see that we lose more military members in the last 90 days of a deployment than we do any other time. So I decided on that particular day that I was going to go to the tip of the spear, to one of my most forward operating bases right on the Pakistan border, and do a health and welfare and morale visit. I wanted to tell these guys, look, we have 90 days left on the ground, and it's a very dangerous place, and I want your head on a swivel until I can get you out of country. Don't lose, your tenacity to stay aware. And I had just gotten those words out of my mouth when all of a sudden rockets started coming in, and they came in like rain, Scott. It was like it was raining on us. So the protocol is you send out a quick reaction force, which is up armored Humvees and Mark 19s and a bunch of soldiers, and they go figure out who is firing at us and where they're firing from. You also call in close air support, A-10s or Apaches, whatever, I can get down that. But the rest of you, there's nothing you can do with small arms to people who are firing at you from miles away. So you're supposed to get into the bunkers. And these bunkers are made out of concrete, and they're shaped like igloos, and they're reinforced with sandbags. And so I'm yelling to the troops, get in the bunkers, get in the bunkers. And then a round landed to my right. And I knew in the cacophony of all this sound of people yelling and rockets going off and radios going off, if I could hear that round hit, that it was too close. And so when that thing detonated, and it threw up everything that was above it, because when those rockets come in, they embed themselves very deep into the earth, sometimes 10, 15 feet. And then when they detonate, they throw all that, whatever it is, sand and rocks. And then this rocket was handmade by the enemy, and it had razor blades and screws in it and feces and all kinds of nasty stuff. And this thing blew like crazy. I had 3 guys standing next to me. They're part of my personal security detachment, big guys, and they'd been with me for the last almost 2 years. And their purpose in life was to keep me from getting hurt or killed or to be captured. And those 3 guys absorbed the brunt of that blast and gave the ultimate sacrifice that day. The eyewitnesses said to me that that blast picked me up and threw me horizontally until I hit one of those concrete bunkers, and I hit it head first. And even though I had a Kevlar on, that was a pretty big impact. And then they medevaced me to Bagram, and they medevaced me to Landstuhl and put me in a coma for 3 or 4 days to do an evaluation of all my injuries. And then the day that they woke me up was the day that the doctor stood next to me with a dry erase board and wrote the words, "You're deaf," on it and showed it to me. And I'm going to tell you honestly, I didn't care how screwed up my body was. I didn't care what all my injuries were. I knew when he told me that I was deaf, that that was the end of my career. And that's what brought me to my knees. And that's what broke my heart. And that's what, kicked me to the curb, was that I would never wear the uniform in active duty again. So in 1 millisecond, it was over.
You said something that I had heard that really struck me. That in those first, as you were starting to recover, you described yourself as that you became an oxygen thief. I thought that was such an interesting. Why did you see yourself as an oxygen thief?
I saw myself as an oxygen thief because I went in the military at 19. I was now 46. So 27 years. I basically grew up in the military. All my friends, my peers, my leaders, my soldier, my whole life was encased in this sense of service, of leading soldiers. It's really the only real job I'd ever had. And it was gone. And I didn't have a plan B because I never thought I would get hurt. You never think it's going to happen to you. And in 2006, if you remember, we were at war in two different places. We were in Iraq and we were in Afghanistan. And so the thought of me retiring or doing something other than soldiering never occurred to me. So I laid in that bed thinking, I don't have a career anymore. Nobody's going to hire a deaf person with a traumatic brain injury, with all these other injuries, and with severe PTSD. I didn't know how I was going to make a living. I didn't have any really friends outside of the military. I didn't even have a home at that point because I had been deployed almost consistently since 2001. My car had been in storage since October of 2001. Back in North Carolina, then Fort Bragg is now Fort Liberty. All my stuff was in storage. And I thought, I don't have anything else to contribute. I don't have any other talents other than what I've done for the last 27 years. I don't have anything to give back to the world. So why am I even here? I'm just taking up space. I'm an oxygen thief.
So I want to talk about you finding your passion and purpose, but I think one interesting fact is that 18 years after that, you received your Purple Heart. And that just happened this year. And you were gracious enough to invite me, and unfortunately I couldn't come, which devastated me. But tell us a little bit about receiving your Purple Heart 18 years later.
So at the time, and it's a crazy story, but at the time, women were still under what they call the exclusionary policy. And that policy said women were not legally allowed to be in combat, to serving units that were direct or serve units that were in direct combat, or those that were in support. And that was a silly rule, and we all know that, right? And women were been in combat since forever, okay? But when I got hurt, and they, was in my position didn't help because everybody freaked out when the sergeant major got blown up and whisked me off, to Bagram, and then sent me to Landstuhl. And as soon as I was able to travel back to the United States, I was sent to Walter Reed. I mean, this was like in a matter of just a few weeks at best. And so the chain of command that should have processed this Purple Heart was thinking that somebody else was going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like they're saying, oh, somebody's going to do that. Somebody else is going to do that. Somebody's going to do that. Now, I never said anything about not having my Purple Heart because remember, I'm thinking I'm an oxygen thief. Okay. And also, I'm thinking that's not an award that you go bang in the door and say, I want my Purple Heart. Okay. Because the only way you get a Purple Heart is something catastrophic happens to you. And I was in denial. And I thought to myself, if I deserve the Purple Heart, they'll send it to me. And if I don't, they won't. So I didn't do myself any favors by not saying anything. And it was a general who saw me in uniform when I was doing one of my speaking engagements, who actually was in country with me. And he says, Gretchen, why aren't you wearing your Purple Heart? And I said, well, I never got one. And then you could have like he almost like fell over backwards. And he goes, what do you mean you didn't get one? We scraped you off the battlefield. I was there. And I said, well, sir, I never got the paperwork and I'm not going to award an award that hasn't been awarded to me. And he says, well, I'm fixing that crap. And literally 3 days later, after that encounter, I get a call from Lieutenant General Stitz, who's in charge of all the wards and branch at the Pentagon. And he says, Gretchen, we owe you a Purple Heart. Why didn't you say something? And I say, sir, I'm not one that does that. I'm sorry. And he goes, oh my God. And he goes, how do we fix this? Come to the Pentagon and we're going to give you your Purple Heart. And I go, thank you, but I don't want to go to the Pentagon to get my Purple Heart. I said, for the first time in my adult life, I'm living in Texas, my home state. I want to get my Purple Heart here where my family and my friends are. And he says, you can have your Purple Heart wherever you want. We'll send a general and we'll put it on you. And he did. He sent down Major General Rampy, who's now the commander of the Ward's Decorations Branch. And she came down and pinned the Purple Heart on me in front of all my friends and family. And you know what? And it was serendipitous because honestly, had I received that Purple Heart at lawn stool or I received it at Walter Reed, I was not in the mind frame to appreciate getting that Purple Heart. I was still angry. I was still dealing with being an oxygen thief. So to me, it was perfect timing to get the Purple Heart because I could have received it in the way that it should be received. Okay. That it wasn't about me. It was for all of those who put themselves in harm's way, that this Purple Heart is a very sacred decoration. And when I got it a couple of weeks ago, on my birthday, actually, on August 5th, it meant something to me. So that's the story of my Purple Heart.
How did you, after your what happened to you in Afghanistan, how did you find your purpose and your passion?
It was a fight to begin with. Okay. A fight within myself. Okay. So I had to convince myself I was worthy to still walk this face of the earth. I had survivor's guilt, I had leader's guilt, I had PTSD, all these things that mess up your mind and all those kinds of things. And then finally one day, after a silly accident where a bicyclist threw me into traffic and almost got run over, but I didn't. And I actually said these words to myself. Damn, again, I could have been taken off the earth, but I didn't. And I was disappointed that this guy didn't hit me. And then I caught myself and I said, Gretchen, you didn't realize what you just said to yourself? That's not okay. And so at that moment, I decided I wanted my life back. And so then I took all the skills that the military taught me and all the things that I learned after being out of the military. And I said, what are you best at, Gretchen? And I'm best at helping people see what's best in them, because that's what a leader does. You see what's in best in other people. And you say, look, you're really good at this. Let me help you. Okay. Wherever path you're on, whatever yellow brick road you're on, whatever you're trying to achieve, if I can help you, let me help you. Let me use my skills as a leader to help you. So really what I became was a sergeant major in civilian clothes. Okay. I ran around helping people. And then I put together Team Unbroken, which was a big part of my healing process. And Team Unbroken, as you know, is an adaptive athletic team. And all of us have a life-altering injury or illness or trauma that have happened to us. And our whole purpose in life is to go out and do hard things to show people that when something kicks you to the curb, it doesn't have to define who you are or what you can accomplish. You are not broken. You may look broken, like some of my injuries are visible and some are not. But we're not broken. We may look different and we may have to do things differently because, and I like to call them mixed abilities. because for every ability I lost, I added one. Like you said earlier, I can't hear Jack. Okay. I don't hear any sounds, but I can lip read, and that comes in really handy at times. Okay. So all my people have taken what has happened to them, the trauma of whatever has happened to them, and they spun it to say, okay, this happened to me, but this is not who I am. Who I am is still this person, and have gone on to do amazing things with their lives. So that's what Team Unbroken does. We go out and we open doors that are closed, and we educate people to say, look past the disability, because there's so much more to that person than what you see. And mostly what comes out of people who get kicked to the curb is grit and gumption and resilience, and this fire in us to say, I will not quit. I will not accept not being the best I can day in and day out. And it doesn't mean we don't have challenges, we don't have failures, because we have a bunch of them, because we put ourselves out there. We're not afraid of a failure. You know what we're afraid of? Regret. That's what scares the BGs out of us, okay, is regret. So that's how I kind of got my mojo back together.
And so you guys just ran the New York City Marathon. But tell us about what you did with Bear Grylls in Fiji.
Oh, yeah. So this is a crazy story. So I was actually in the hospital. I had some minor surgery. I don't even remember what happened, but my good friend Eric Weinmayer, the first blind man to ever summit Mount Everest, he's a good friend of mine. He sent me an email and he says, Gretchen, Mark Burnett's bringing back the Eco Challenge, the world's toughest race. I think you should put a team of adaptive athletes together and go compete. And I think I was on Vicodin or something. And of course I said, oh, okay, Eric, whatever you ask. Okay. So I called up all my blown up friends, okay, and said, hey, who wants to do this with me? And I got a team together, and we were filling out the application, and it was lengthy about, I wanted to know all your athletic accomplishments. Okay. Everybody on my team was competing against able-bodied people, even though they were not, and doing amazing things. I had Ironman and marathoners and mountain bikers and climbers and the whole thing. Everybody was doing great. But when I filled out this application, there was one paragraph, little tiny paragraph this big. It said, if you have any injuries, list them here. So it took me like 4 pages to list all our injuries, because the people had body parts that were missing. So when I sent in the application, I got this big honking no from the gatekeeper, just a no. And I wrote back and said, why did you say no? And they responded, well, this is the world's toughest race, and you guys are all disabled. And I thought, okay, first of all, I think it's illegal for you to say that. Okay. Second of all, that's not very nice. And I said, yeah, but we're all incredible athletes. We meet the criteria of competing in the world's toughest race according to your thing. And she goes, we can't have disabled people come and compete. And I said, take me to your leader. Okay. So she did. And the leader was Mark Burnett, who was the producer and Bear and the race director. And they asked me to get on a Zoom call. And I get on the Zoom call with Mark, who is a veteran, by the way, and so is Bear. And this is what they said to me. Mark says, Gretchen, I want to say yes to Team Unbroken, but I'm afraid. And I said, Mark, what are you afraid of? And he said, I'm afraid you're going to get hurt. And I started laughing. I said, Mark, I've been blown up to smithereens, okay? I mean, piece by piece, they picked me up and put me back together. I'm like Humpty the Dumpty. And he started laughing. I said, are you going to shoot at us in Fiji? And he goes, no. And I said, are you going to rocket us? And he goes, no. And I said, then we're good. And really what I said to Mark was, Mark, if you say no to Team Unbroken, you're saying no to a whole population of people out there who get doors slammed in their face every day. Because when people look at them, they see something that is broken. They see something that is less than, and they decide what they're capable or what they can accomplish. And you don't get to do that, Mark, for people. People get to decide that for themselves. And Mark said to me, this is a true story. He looked at me and he says, when you say it like that, Gretchen, it makes me sound like an asshole. And I said, Mark, don't be an asshole. And so he said yes. And he opened a door for Team Unbroken to go and compete in the world's toughest race. And we showed up. We didn't have sponsors. We didn't have Jack. Okay. I borrowed, begged, stole all of our equipment. And it was subpar because all these other teams were elite teams and they had Nike and, all these big sponsors. And we had teams that wouldn't even sit at the breakfast table with us because they had no respect for us. And so Mark was smart enough because, Mark's a smart guy and he put a camera guy with Team Unbroken. And this poor camera guy, because we sucked at what we did. This was our first adventure race. The biggest adventure race in the world was our first one. And we didn't know what we were doing. Okay. And we almost killed this camera guy because we threw him in raging rivers. We got lost in the jungle. We starved. We fell in holes. All the things bad things that could happen happened to Team Unbroken. But what he captured on film was a team of people who never gave up, a team of people who showed people how to adapt to mixed abilities, people whose right side didn't work, to a deaf person, to a type 1 diabetic, to 3 of us who had traumatic brain injuries. And we were still navigating all the same things that these able-bodied people were doing it. We were just doing it in a different way. And Mark captured it on film. And when he released The World's Toughest Race on Amazon Prime, 6 months later, he sent me an email and he asked me 2 things. He says, Gretchen, I've got hundreds of thousands of Instagram posts and emails that say Team Unbroken changed my life. Team Unbroken showed me that I'm more than what's happened to me. Team Unbroken got me off the couch. Team Unbroken made me feel whole. And he said, in all those Instagrams and emails, never once did anybody mention the team that actually won the race. All they talked about was Team Unbroken. So his request to me in 2022 was to have Team Unbroken still do what they do and show the world what it looks like to overcome obstacles that seem impossible, and for me to keep telling my story. And so that's what I'm doing today, is that at Team Unbroken, we're still opening up doors. We're still hopefully inspiring people to be the best that they can be, and regardless of what's happened to them. And I'm still telling my story like today.
It would be so easy for you to walk through this world as a victim, but that's not you. But we have so many people that walk through the world with a victim mentality. How have you navigated the world without feeling like a victim, or what advice would you give to people that feel like the odds are stacked against them?
It would have been easy for me. I mean, honestly, that rocket took my hearing. It took part of my face. It took part of my brain. It took my career. It took a lot of things, and it was easy for me. And, in the beginning, yeah, did I feel like a victim? But that's no life. You can't, if you stay there, you're not helping yourself or anybody else. And I feel like our whole purpose here is to help others. Okay. And that brings out the best in all of us. And to get stuck into that, woe is me, why did this happen world, will literally suck the life out of you. I don't know how you live there. I don't know how you get up every morning and stay in that place. And I talk to people all the time, and, and like sometimes it's tough luck and it's hard to say this to them. I want to say to them, you're not the only one walking around that's been kicked to the curb. Believe me, I don't think there's anybody on this call that hasn't been kicked to the curb, whether it be in your career or your life. All of us get hit with that. It looks different for everybody. But if we all stayed there, what kind of world would we live in? And I think that the onus is on us to show that, it happens to all of us. We can take that, and what was meant for bad, we can use for good. In fact, really, we have no other choice. Otherwise, we are oxygen thieves, right? I'm sitting home, I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm not helping anybody, and I'm breathing air that belongs to somebody else. This. So I preach a hard story sometimes. And when I say, okay, all right, you get like 24 hours to feel bad for yourself, right? And then you got to pull yourself up and play the cards you've been dealt. And it's a good hand. It still is. Okay. go play it, go help somebody. Take the focus off of you and put it on something else. And that's probably the most healing thing you can do, is simply quit caring about yourself so much, right? And care about other people and say, okay, it's not all about you, Gretchen. Go do something for somebody else.
You are remarkable, and I have tons of additional questions. I wanted to talk about the SBs, and you're donating, your brain to Project Enlist, and anyway, so many other things. But we have a bunch of people who would love to ask you a question. So are you ready?
I am. Let me drink some honey tea.
Perfect. Chrysanthi, we're gonna go to you first.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And how are you? It's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. The question I put in there that I haven't had the chance to ask you with all the times that I've had the great privilege to hang out and you co-hosted the podcast, and thank you so much. I can't thank you enough every time I see you. Is as grateful as you are and energetic, and I'm just over the top positive. How did your gratitude change from, obviously you were just a powerhouse the entire time in the military. Robert can attest to it as well, as he said on the podcast, that you're just an incredible woman all the way around. And then with everything you've been through since, how do you feel like your gratitude changed, if any, and why?
I think that the rocket blast made me a better person. Let me tell you, okay.
Is
I was a
is
good,
that possible?
yeah, I was a nice person to begin with. I wasn't, never was, but I don't think I was as grateful as I should have been. I don't think I appreciated days like I do now. I don't think I had an awareness of what it was to be a person of mixed abilities. And, am I grateful that I got blown up? No, I would never say that. But am I grateful for the sharpening of awareness that it gave me? Absolutely. And I have no, like I say, I have no regrets. I took something that happened to me and did the best I could do with it. And I think I'm a better person for it. And I've met incredible people that I never would have met before, and be able to do things that I never would have been able to do before had that one moment in time not happened. I would have had a different trajectory for life. And these are these pivotal moments in everybody's life. You can go right or you can go left. Okay. And I could be sitting at home eating bonbons, whatever those are. Okay. But that's not what I wanted to do. So I think my gratitude, like the Grinch's heart, grew 10 times more after the rocket blast, and that my life post military has contributed more to the world than my military career did.
Do you feel like Robert and those beautiful black labs of yours had effect on that as well?
Oh yeah, he's a great guy, and I couldn't live without Rusty because he's my ears. He keeps me from going to jail for driving badly, and who knows else what Rusty keeps me out of. Okay, because yes, everybody, my whole rope team, everybody that I encounter adds to the beautifulness and the fullness of my life. It's not just me out there. Okay, I take on other people's great vibes and their contributions to what they're doing and their wisdom, and I take it on and I write down things, and I emulate all the positive people I meet in the world. That makes me a better person. I'm grateful for each and every one of you, and I'm hoping that we can get together and we can all take a little bit of something, because everybody's got something to offer that's powerful. I'm just getting started.
I know how you feel. Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you.
Yarrow in Florida, you're up.
Hello, Gretchen. Ma'am, you are a force to be reckoned with. Thank you for who you are and your service in all ways that you serve. You're just amazing. You said that a leader helps others see the best in themselves, which resonated with me because I feel like in my professional journey, which is in the development space. That is my skill set, is helping others see what they have to bring to the table. But I'm also in the process of reinventing myself and feeling like I probably should just take some of my own medicine and pour back into me in order to level up myself. And I'm curious if you can share anything else from your experience in that, because I heard, all that you accomplished prior to the rocket, and then feeling that sense of no direction and worth, to then finding your purpose again in service. But I've found that, you can't pour from an empty cup. So sometimes you have to turn the mirror back on yourself. So any other insight you may have in that journey for yourself would be appreciated.
So, one of the things I learned in the military, and I had the luxury in the military, was, let's say I had a cook that went, he went to cook school and he came out in the military, and every morning I walked in there and he had this gloomy face on and he made crappy eggs. Okay. I would say to myself, did you want to be a cook? And he goes, no, I wanted to be this, but the Army said I had to be this because it was based on need at the time. Right. Well, I could take him out of being a cook and working on Humvees if that's what he wanted to do. So, I realized, that he was not happy with what he was doing. Then I could go find a guy that's turning wrenches and say, you want to make breakfast? Okay. You like to make pies? Okay. Let's put you in the kitchen. And I had the luxury of being able to do that in the military, because you can move people around. Okay. And I think in the civilian world, you can do that too. You have to be bold enough to do it. You have to be bold enough to walk in and take your accountant. Okay, you went in, has a CPA, and maybe he or she's even good at it, but they're not happy at it. And say, would you like to be the marketing person? Because I've seen your what you've done on your web page or whatever it is, and you're really good at it. The same thing applies to yourself. You do not want me balancing your checkbook. I am not that person for you. Okay. I don't pretend to be. I don't want to be. I suck at it. And so you got to find the people, especially who, if you're doing something big and you need other people, this is all about building your team. Who is not only good at it, but likes to do it. And I'm going to tell you what, talent will always overcome skills. Does that make sense? So I would say the heart always overcomes skills. You can be good at a lot of things, but if your heart's not in it, you're not going to be successful. You know that. I'm preaching to the choir here. Your heart has to go first. So you really got to sit down and have that honest conversation with yourself, and not put dollars attached to it, not put status or position or power attached to it, and simply ask yourself, what and who do I want to be? And not attach anything else. And if you can answer that, then go do that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Lindsay Dowd in Massachusetts.
Hello, Gretchen. When you said your heart was like the Grinch's and it grew 10 sizes, I think the whole room feels that. I know Tommy put that in the chat and I felt it as soon as you said it. So thank you. And thank you for your service. My question is, you've done incredible things. You've had your military career. You've had your post-military career with the whole Team Unbroken. What's next for you? And by the way, your style of leadership is my favorite. It's what I wrote a book about. And I just, it's so refreshing hearing a female military leader believe in so many of the same things that so many of us in this room believe.
I'm not exactly sure what's next. I'm on this really great path right now. And, but I will say this, I never lock myself in. Okay. This is a silly thing, but let's take my calendar, for example. Lots of speakers who speak all over the place, they hold dates, for the highest bidder or big names or something like this. I believe this, things happen for a reason. I call them serendipity. My husband, who's a chaplain, calls them providential. And so I think I live my life like that. Like, I'm not going to over plan things so that if something interjects itself, that I can't pivot. Okay. Because sometimes opportunities present themselves and you think, oh my gosh, that's really where I need to be. That's where I need to be focused. I need to pivot. And it may take me totally by surprise. And I want the ability to be able to do that. So I tread softly and I keep going the direction I'm going until I get a big honk and slam door, or until I need to pivot or something like that. So right now I want to keep sharing my story, and I want to keep supporting Team Unbroken to do the things that we like to do. And those are my two big, pieces of a nugget. I have a brand new grandbaby. He's new to me, 19 months. He's kind of a big thing in my life. Okay. This little dude that, I don't know, he turns me into jello. Like, I can't even get mad at this kid when he throws crap at me and things. Okay. Because he's got an arm like a shortstop. But, that has become a big thing in my life. So what's next for me is engaging with people like you to keep learning, to keep giving, to keep interacting with people who are on what I call the tip of the spear, people who are willing to take the risk to be out there, to do things that might come at a cost to them, whether it be with time or talents or treasures, because all the things that we do come with a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Today it came with an hour of your precious time. And so that's not lost on me. So I'm moving forward with Gretchen and Team Unbroken and my family and whatever else gets put in my way. I have some space to pivot and some space for grace.
Smart. I love it. And thank you for spending an hour of your precious time with us. You picked the right room.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Melanie Fox in New York City.
Thank you, Scott. Gretchen, thank you. Thank you for your ongoing service. It's still going for sure. I have a bit of a story and then a question to follow it up. So about 3 years ago, I had a health emergency, which turned into a bit of a disability for me. And first it was very visible, and now it's a lot less visible. The thing that I wanted to ask about was, so when I was in the hospital, despite the fact that everyone was nice, I felt that the medical professionals and other support services had this very, I don't want to say depressing outlook, but when I was in one of the hospital rooms, this, I guess, psychologist would walk around and be like, "Oh, how are things?" And this like very gloomy, like, "I need to pick you up from depression." I'm like, "I'm great. Talk to my husband. He's sad. I'm great. Tell my parents I'm going to be fine. I'm great." And they seemed very shocked by it. And then when I said, "Hey, I'm doing my thing with this disability. What can I get for it? Can I get a sticker? Can I get a sign? Can I get a thing for my parents' car so they could drop me? Like, what can I get? Can my business get a thing? Like small business enterprise? Is there a disability?" And they kept saying, "Oh, but no, we don't have anything like that. But how are you feeling?" And they kept doing this like depressed look thing where they said, "Well, are you doing your normal activities? Or do you find yourself not socializing?" I said, "I'm more social than I was before, but like, what's proactive? What can we do?" And like, they just didn't have an answer. So my question for you after this massive long story is there anything that you can do, not just to help, like, whether it's accident victims, not be victims, or people with disabilities, but can you help people in medical staffs and hospitals get on your page and make people not feel so sorry, but feel like they're going to go and conquer something or be active? And have you encountered the same thing? Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I've just been on a big speaking thing, speaking to regional hospital, state hospital things about that very thing. And I know that for me, when I was recovering and I was at Walter Reed and for 18 months, which is a long time to be in a hospital. And what I found was that the caregivers would do that very thing. Okay. They almost wanted to coddle you a little bit. Okay. Like prevent you from doing things. And, and we're putting thoughts in your mind about what the things that you couldn't do. And finally, I would say to the doctor, "Tell me what I can do." And the one thing I tell providers, medical doctors and clinicians that work with people who are sick and, or have any kind of, if you will, mixed abilities, is that you have to give them hope. They already know what they can't do. Okay. They're more aware than anybody else. Okay. What they can't do. You have to walk into that room. Okay. And give them hope. And that's the best medicine. And you can't give me hope by giving me a pill. You can't give me hope necessarily by treatment, but you can give me hope with words. You can say, I don't know, Gretchen, that you'll ever hear again, but technology is an amazing thing. And maybe somewhere down the road, we're going to figure out a way that you're going to be able to hear your grandson's voice someday. And I don't know, Gretchen, about your traumatic brain injury. Right now, we're doing the best that we can. But down the road, we might be able to develop something that could restore some of what you lost. And so it's this positive talk that they leave these the people that they're caring for with. This is what it looks like now, but we have to have hope that it's going to get better down the road. And let me tell you what you can do, okay, which is almost everything. We just have to figure out how you can do it with what's happened to you, with what has changed. So like as a deaf person, okay, how can I drive legally to get a hearing dog that can tell me where the ambulance is coming from? It was really that simple to get my driver's license back. But I had doctor after doctor after doctor, and even the state tell me that I could not legally drive because I couldn't hear emergency vehicles. And that basically took away my independence until I figured out how to make that work. So, yes, positive. Let's figure out what we can do. Let's figure out what we can do to put you back in the life that you want to live. Tell me what you want to do, and I'll find a way to help you do it. Did that answer your question?
Yes, and I just hope that everybody listens to you so they get people being active and not, not I feel like it makes people uncomfortable that like it almost made the doctors uncomfortable that I wasn't depressed. And so I think that if people watched your video and they see you, maybe they'll do a little turnaround. So I hope you actively start training people at hospitals to have your attitude.
Paul in Florida.
Oh my goodness, Gretchen, thank you so much for your time, vulnerability, and service. This conversation has been so powerful, and throughout it, my questions kind of changed. I'm really curious. One of my most early memories of like anyone speaking was actually at the ESPYs, and that was like the first time that I ever experienced a standing ovation where like everybody in the room stood. I would love to know for you, do you have like a moment or like one of something that has been really impactful for you that you learned either from the ESPYs or on the world's toughest race?
That's a great question. So, the ESPYs is so Hollywood. Okay, so Hollywood. And I'm so not. And I got thrown in the deep end of the pool. Okay, first everybody was there in these beautiful, gorgeous outfits, and change, and it was over the top. And one of the best memories I had of the ESPYs was that when I was at the hotel and they put me at the hotel where all the celebrities were, and so the limo would come and pick up people and take them to where the ESPYs were, which is the same place we have the Academy Awards. It was literally around the block. Okay, I could see the building, and so when I walked out, and I'm in my uniform, I've got Rusty with me and my husband, and a couple of friends, and my brothers and sisters, and I said, "We'll just walk. It's right there." The lady's like, "No, you can't walk. You have to get in the limo." And I go, "It's right there. It's like 40 feet from here." She goes, "No, no, 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 no." And she didn't want to call me because I was in uniform. She's like, "No, ma'am, you have to get in the limo." And I go, "Why?" She goes, "Because it's timing, because it's the red carpet." So I was oblivious to all that. So when they dropped me off at the red carpet, you remember I'm deaf, there's this line of crazy people with flash bulbs and things going off and yelling my name and waving at me to try to get me to turn to them so they can get the best picture. And I'm not hearing that, I'm seeing all that. And it was a little unnerving to me, and it was unnerving to my dog. And my friend Tom, who's my brand manager, was walking the red carpet with me. And he put his hands up like Moses parting the Red Sea. And he said, "Gretchen is deaf. If you want her picture, if you'll raise your hand, she'll turn towards you." Okay. So all these crazy people who are elbowing each other, Variety and all these other, whatever. Okay. Raised their hand, and I turned. We took a picture. Raised your hand, and I took it to picture. And this is the way I went down the red carpet. The minute I stepped off that red carpet, they all started elbowing each other and screaming and yelling at the person that was right behind me. And it just dawned on me that, just that moment that they were so respectful to me. They really were. And the funniest story of all of this, and I'll leave it because I talked about the SB, was I didn't know I was going to be invited to the after party. I didn't even know what the after party was. Okay, so I didn't bring anything. All I had was my uniform. So at the after party, everybody's changed into another beautiful outfit. And the parties began, and champagne and food, and all these celebrities are walking everywhere. I went upstairs and I put on my Team Unbroken sweats because that's all I had, and went to the after party in my Team Unbroken, this shirt and a pair of black sweatpants. And that's where I walked through the ESPYs. And there's a million pictures of me with Steph Curry and John Hamm and all those people with me in my Team Unbroken sweats. And nobody ever said anything to me. So that to me was memorable because they really didn't care. They got it. When I did my acceptance speech, John Hamm was like 3 feet from me. He was on the front row, and tears were coming down his face. And I really believe that everybody in that room heard what I had to say for the first time, and that's why I think they stood up. I think they were so used to people standing up there and saying whatever they said, not to take anything away from professional athletes or celebrities, but I didn't have an agenda. I was not famous. Okay. I just did the job that was asked of me to do. And then after I got hurt, I picked up the pieces and continued to do my best life. And I think it made a difference to them.
What do you think? You guys want to hear her ESPY speech? Let's do it.
Thank you so very much. I'm so humbled and honored to be here and to receive this award. Thank you, Marie and the Pat Tillman Foundation. I was deployed in Afghanistan when Pat Tillman lost his life, and I was present when they named the U.S. facility there after him in his honor. I spent many nights in that USO waiting for troops coming in from far away from the United States, and also to catch flights to other parts of Afghanistan. I am sure that Pat Tillman would be so proud that there's a place named after him where service members could go and feel safe and peace. I would not be here standing today if it wasn't for the love and support of my family, my brothers, Kurt and Eric, my sister, Dana, my spouse, my husband, Navy Captain, Chaplain, retired, Robert, my precious daughter and her husband, Bobby, who are serving their country in Okinawa, so very far away, and so many others, too many to list. I would like to say a special shout out to my athletic team, Team Unbroken. Yes. It is such a joy to race and compete with you, alongside you, when you never blink an eye when I ask you to jump off cliffs or paddle through crazy oceans or trek through the jungles, and we ride bikes in the pouring rain. We go without sleep for days. And I so love those adventures, but what I love more than anything else is that we do it together. We embrace that suck better than anyone. We prove to the world that we are not broken. We are unbroken. And of course, I would be so remiss if I didn't give a special recognition to my wonderful service dog, Rusty. Rusty is actually my second hearing service dog. My first was Aura, and she's here tonight also with my husband, and she is his service dog now. These dogs have given me unconditional love. There's no judgment from them. They give me soft kisses. They stand by me, always happy to see me. And they saved my life. Receiving the Pat Tillman Award for Service comes with a responsibility that I welcome. I will strive to live a life worthy of Pat Tillman's legacy, to put others first before self, to make the world a better place. I will try to live a life worthy of his sacrifice and his family's sacrifice. To anyone listening tonight who is in a dark place, I ask you to look and find that flickering light that's inside of you. Whether you're a star athlete, a wounded veteran, facing shattered bones, or a crushed spirit, embrace your struggle for what it is, but know that you do not have to do this by yourself. Find your rope team, those trusted friends that will never let you down, whether they be two-legged or four-legged. Let go of that burden and hold on to the rope with them. Alone, we might want to give up, but together we are unafraid, we are unstoppable and unbroken, and we will banish loneliness, combat hopelessness, and bring the light to the darkness in each other's lives, because what is within us is stronger than anything in our way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching
Incredible,
ESPN.
Gretchen. Gretchen, that's what an outlier looks like. That's what an American hero looks like. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. I have not watched it since I gave it, to be honest with you. So it was, I meant every word when I said it, and I still do. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for everything. We love you. Thank you.
Love you guys too. Take care of each other.